So, greetings everyone. This is Uriah Young. It is on a Thursday and everyone's getting off from work, and I just got home and I have the opportunity right now to do a Skype session with a very hot author right now. She's been very, very popular, going to different venues and going to schools and promoting her amazing books. I'm on the line with Donna Galanti, who is the author of Joshua in the Lightning Road and Joshua in the Arrow Realm. So, Donna, welcome to the podcast or the vlog for the Philadelphia Writers Conference. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks, Uriah, so much for having me on today. This is really exciting.
It's exciting. The last time that we saw each other, you came to my school in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and you stood up in front of several hundred students and you were just pouring your soul out and explaining what it's like to be a writer and to have a published book. And they were enamored
Oh,
by some of the
that's
things that
great.
you had to say in terms of how you got started. So it's good to have you and to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a huge blast for me, inspiring kids, hopefully.
Oh yeah, they were very interested. They wanted to know when you're coming back, believe it or
Hey,
not.
I'm there.
I'll make sure I can hook that up. Wink, wink. So today we have a few questions, and a lot of it has to do obviously with your writing career. And I think people would be interested to know when it comes to getting started on a journey that for you started a long time ago in your childhood. But at this point where you are in your career, you're published, you're marketing, you're going out, you're doing appearances. But we both know in the writing community that there's a philosophy that writers help other writers. No one can do it out here alone. And I know you can attest to that. So if you could elaborate on that philosophy, what that means to you, your experience, I'm sure our viewers could benefit from that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And that's such a great question because community, is so important, I think, for a writer, especially moving along an author career. I have come to learn over the last few years that we can write alone, but we cannot get published alone. And we absolutely cannot succeed alone. So, it's been my peers that have become, many of them, my good friends over the years that have helped me um, get to where I am, which I don't think I would be without them. They've helped me along the way to get an agent, a two-book deal, multiple publishers, blurbs from New York Times bestsellers, and just learning the craft and the industry. And some of these good friends you may know, author Janice Gable Bashman, editor and author Catherine Kraft, Marie Lamba, she's an author agent and a good friend too, and a member of the Liars Club as well as Janice. And so I've met them over the years when I actually first crawled out of my writer's cave, I like to say, looked around in the light, and thought, what do I do now? I don't know any writers. I don't belong to any writer groups. I threw myself into going to, workshops and conferences. And I learned really quickly that these other peers of mine love to pay it forward. They love to share. There's a big camaraderie amongst writers. And as I learned things over the years, I've, come to love to share, as well, too, and found out how important community really is. And it's funny because actually right now, community is so key for me that I'm creating a new training series called Create Your Awesome Community for debut authors. And it's all about helping build community of readers and writers for new authors to help them on the way to success. So this is kind of my way of, paying it forward. But so these are things that you can do even before your first book comes out. Build that community, get to know people because we can't go it alone. We just can't.
Now, I did see, speaking of building community, I saw on your Facebook page that it's a very active Facebook, by the way, your author Facebook page, that you had, I think, a writing group, a writing critique group. How's that work for you with your critique groups? I know that's a big deal for what you do in building community.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My critique group, we formed about a year and a half ago. And I think here's the key to going into a critique group. Make sure it's in the genre that you write in. So we all write picture books. I mean, not picture books. We all write children's books. And we're all kind of at the same level in as far as our writing career with getting published or having agents. And we understand how things work. We understand how to criticize, how to give encouragement, and also help each other improve the craft. And I think that's really key to being part of a critique group, being in the right kind of critique group. So if you're looking for one, definitely source it out to see if it's a good fit for you before you join.
You have been, from my understanding, a presenter, instructor at different conferences. I know you said Penn Writers was one of them, and you've also attended other conferences in the area between Doylestown and Philadelphia, namely the Philadelphia Writers Conference. Could you give us an idea of what these writing conferences are like and how they can benefit not just new writers, but even seasoned writers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Another great question, because again, writing conferences has been so key for me. I think, again, in building community, writers helping writers. When I crawled out of that writer's cave, went to my first conference, I was terrified, and actually the second conference I went to was the PwC, and that was 6 years ago, I believe. It was a great opportunity. I learned from these masters, in these sessions. I remember them so vividly, and because I learned so much from people like Marie Lamba, Greg Frost, Kelly Simmons, Don Lafferty, and I think Greg Frost even helped me with the first chapter of my first book that came out a few years ago. And again, that camaraderie at the conferences. So it's about learning the craft and the business, but also, networking. Whether you're a new writer or a veteran author, I have found that, veteran authors often love to pay it forward, okay? The new writers coming in, because they were those new writers once, in those ranks. And I know it can be really scary going to conferences. And I want to quickly just share some tips that have helped me over the years, because when I went to my first conference, I felt like, wow, I don't belong here, but I quickly learned that if you're a writer who wants to learn your craft in the business, that you do belong, no matter if you're published or not. So I think first tip is to absolutely have a business card. Even if you don't have a website or a blog or anything, just get a basic card from Vistaprint or a print place with your name, your email, and a nice smiley headshot of yourself. You definitely want to have your photo on there so people can remember you. And I know it can be hard to meet people you don't know. I didn't know anybody at my first conference. I don't think I knew anybody at the PwC that I went to either. But buffet tables are a great place to meet people, registration booths. Say, hey, I write middle grade. What do you write? Or is this your first time coming to a conference? These are all doorways that we can meet people. Also, I think going to the panels and the workshops early, getting a seat so you can engage with the people around you before the panel starts, and then absolutely touching base with that workshop presenter afterwards if there's time to just introduce yourself quickly. Say, thank you so much for your session, and maybe a tip, this is what I learned, and connect with them on social media, maybe even give them a shout out. Say, hey, I just sat in on so-and-so's class and I learned this. It was great. So these are all good tips, I think.
Were you one of those people who attended and sat in the front row and raising your hand every 5 minutes? Was that you, Donna?
I still do that. I do. I don't want to miss anything, It's like me and my notepad. There I am.
Sometimes the passion for what you do just draws you to the front, and you just can't help but try to absorb as much knowledge and experience from the presenters like Robert Frost or Jonathan Mayberry. It's so critical, and
I think you mean Gregory Frost.
Gregory Frost, Robert Frost. I'm thinking of
but I'd love to meet Robert Frost. I don't think we can anymore, though.
I hope Greg doesn't kill me for mixing him up. But then that's sort of a compliment to know that
that's true.
It is same last name. So let's move on to something that is critical with what you do, because your target audience is young kids, middle grade area. And for you to actually go out and speak at a school, that can, for some people, getting up in front of anybody, whether it's kids or adults, it kind of gets people a little jittery. But you do it, and you do it well, because I've seen you in person. So tell me what that does for you and your brand when you go and you speak at a school about your books.
Well, it's so many things in that package, and it's taken me a lot to get there. I started speaking out at conferences first before I did school visits. But it's so huge for me because I get in front of my target readers. I get the chance to sell my books. I get to share my author journey, my work, and I am part of my brand. And I think writers and new authors need to realize that it's not just your book. That's the brand. It's you. You are selling you, which goes along with your book. And there's so much of my real life in that book that I love to share with kids. But it's also super fun for me because I hopefully inspire them to find a love for reading and writing. And then also from meeting with those kids, I get more referrals and I get more invites. I get asked to come back. And there's nothing better than a kid running up to you and throwing their arms around you and saying, "You totally inspire me," So it makes my job as a writer that much more enjoyable, especially writing for children. But when I actually started out writing or speaking at conferences, many years ago, I would go to these conferences and see these presenters and think, "Oh my gosh, I could never do that. They know so much information and they're speaking in front of 100 people. That's terrifying." And then as time went on, I realized, wow, I do know a lot of information now, and I'd love to share it like you do and like so many others out there. You don't realize how much knowledge you have as time goes on and as you learn. And so I packaged together some sessions and I started presenting. I actually have a sample on my website. If you go to donnagalanti.com, you can see a sample of my talks. And so I started presenting at places like, SCBWI and Penn Writers, Rosemont College, The Right Stuff. I haven't been to PwC yet, but I'm looking forward to that someday. And, it's because of my peers that helped me get to that point, For example, just to go back to the school visits, I took a workshop on how to get school visits, how to present. So I was learning again from other writers helping writers. And also one of my good friends here, Keith Strunk, who's a Liar Club member, he's an author and an actor, and he met with me twice to help me with the theatrical part of the school visit. I couldn't have done it without him. Oh, he was amazing. I actually met with him yesterday because we're partnering together on this new training series, Create Your Awesome Community, for debut authors.
Did Keith give you the tip? Did Keith give you the tip of having the students come up and wear the wardrobe and act out different voices, or that was
we did do skits? No, he said, "Oh, I knew I wanted to have some kind of skit in there." So he really helped me craft that. My first skit didn't go over so well with my first visit that I ever did. So I really learned from that, and he helped me tweak it. So I really had to give the kids good direction. That was a big part of it. Yeah,
you were very dynamic.
Oh, thank you.
The kids were impressed. The teachers were impressed.
Great.
I think one thing that the teachers were so thankful for is all of you had some examples of your early writing from 6th grade and even younger. And a lot of your edits were obviously some of the symbols that we still use today when it comes to writing. And all the teachers probably felt, thank God, like she's covering something that we teach. It actually is something that kids can see that someone uses, and it helped them with their career. So I think that aspect, from an educator standpoint, we appreciate that. But your spirit, your effervescent personality when you're standing up there, you were a great presenter, and hopefully we can get you to come back next year.
Oh, thank you, Uriah. I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's really been a lot of my peers that have helped me get to that point and be able to do this. I never thought I'd be standing in front of 350 6th graders, in my life. I only had one rule from my son. He said, "Don't be boring, Mom, whatever you do." So, hopefully I wasn't boring, but yeah, so presenting and learning, I think, how to speak is so important to being an author. We have to be public figures, even if online at the very least, if not in person. We have to get out of our comfort zone. What I like to think of it as getting into a new community comfort zone, and getting out of one zone and into another and feeling comfortable with that, which I never thought I would, and I have come to find that I do. So it can be a big part of creating that successful foundation as a writer.
Yeah, sometimes writers can just assume that I can write the best book in the world, but if no one has a chance to meet you and shake your hand and make that eye-to-eye contact, it just makes it tougher and tougher. And even like you said earlier, when you go to these conferences, you have to exchange a card. You have to say hello to someone and ask them, what do you write? Because it just can't be about you and what you do. So I agree with you 100% in that aspect. So let's talk about the final question, and that has to do with the things that are coming down the road for you. You have a lot of amazing things about to happen. You're selling books. I saw that you have a new short story for Joshua. So I'm sure you're going to touch on that. So please tell us what's coming up for you, Donna.
Okay, so I do have a lot going on right now, especially with this training series that I'm creating. I started out writing thrillers for grown-ups, and that was my first book, A Human Element. I'm revising the third and final book in that trilogy right now, which I started in NaNoWriMo last November, where you write a novel in a month, which I thought, those people are crazy.
How many thousands of words?
1,000, and yeah, it was a super fun roller coaster. I'm glad I did it. So I'm revising that right now, but I really transitioned into writing thrillers for kids, I like to think of it as, and other books. So I'm tweaking 3 picture books right now. I'm revising a young adult fantasy. I have another idea for a middle grade fantasy. So I think writing for children is my love. I love the middle grade age. You've got your foot still in magic and halfway in the adult world, and I love that kind of in between place. My son is also still in middle school, so it's something that we can share together. He's my beta reader. So I'm going to be teaching also at the SCBWI conference for children's book writers and illustrators in June in New Jersey. That's the first weekend in June. I'll be teaching how to get your manuscript past the gatekeeper. Great conference. And I'll be teaching those on Mamba. Yeah, hopefully it should be a great conference. And so there's always new projects on my plate. Never enough time. I often get up at 4 a.m. to write. So, you know.
Well, all of the tips that you had and all the experience that you just shared, I'm sure that everyone who watched this is so appreciative of it. And on behalf of the Philadelphia Writers Conference, Donna, I thank you for being a guest and just bringing your energy and bringing your enthusiasm. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uriah.
All right, so it's about that time. We're about to sign out, but before we do, I do have to promote the Philadelphia Writers Conference, which is coming up this June. You can register now. Don't wait. You can get there by going on www.pwcwriters.org. There's plenty of information in terms of who's going to be there, what you can learn, and you don't want to wait, because the longer you wait, you might have to pay a little bit more at the door. You know what I'm saying? So, this is Uriah Young with Donna Galanti on the Philadelphia Writers Conference vlog. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.